KNAC.com, the loudest.com on the planet. Welcome, my guest today, Dino Cazares, Fear Factory. A pleasure to talk to you, brother. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Just here in our sunny California vibe, as you know how it is.
It's
Um,
scorching
and
already.
hoping that today is the final day of wearing our masks here in Los Angeles.
That's what they say. It is June 15th, a Tuesday, and I guess we're officially declared reopened. So
Yes.
I just,
So I'm very excited about that because
and
now we can go to our favorite bars and so on.
yeah, and Rainbow, like we mentioned, we were just talking earlier, like a Rainbow Bar and Grill, a staple in the rock and metal scene for as long as we can remember. On the Sunset Strip has been happening, but they've been slowly reopening and stuff like that. And I know you're there pretty often and stuff like that, and we'll get to that in a second. But are you excited? This week you have your new album coming out, Aggression Continuum. Is that right?
Aggression Continuum, yes,
Yes.
finally comes out after our last record was 2015. So it's been roughly about 6 years since we put out a record, and I'm excited that that's finally going to get to come out. It's been a tumultuous, you know, things that we had to go through just to get it out. It was a struggle.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. Like 6 years is a difference, man. Like, what did you do differently here that you didn't do on Genexus?
Well, almost recorded the record 3 times. Because first we did the demo, and then we tracked the record in 2017. And then we went through all our legal stuff, and so which prevented us from getting the record out, prevented us from using the name and stuff like that. So in 2020, when all the legal stuff was past us, um, I was able to go back and add some things that I felt was lacking on the record in the previous version.
Mm,
So, adding live drums, getting Andy Steve to mix the record was
yeah,
definitely a big turning point for me and this record. Also working with collaborating with other keyboardists on
right.
this record definitely added to it as well. So, I think the keyboards added some other nuances and other dynamics, especially the drums, you
Yeah.
know, um, and finishing it. And then boom, just it added a whole new life to the songs. And I'm just, very proud of it to be able to get it out for everybody to hear it this Friday.
Yeah, and yeah, well, you mentioned the keyboards. You work like from people from like the guy from Yes, I believe, right? And then you
Yeah.
used one of your
Keyboardist from
longtime,
Yes. Yeah.
and then one of
Yeah.
those longtime people that you had working for you too, right?
Well, the keyboard player from Yes was our first time working with him, and his name is Igor, and he did an amazing job,
Yeah.
especially on the song like Recode and Fuel Injected Suicide Machine. He had his hands in a few of the tracks that came out amazing. Collapse as well. Also getting Reese Fulber back. He's been working with us since 1992,
Nice.
and to get him back on the record was definitely a highlight. Um, what's a Fear Factory record without Reese Fulber? He's been
Yeah,
pretty much like the fifth Beatle, the fifth band member, and so yeah, he helped us really. He helped us convey my vision of what I saw for the band,
right.
and all his elements and his knowledge of keyboards and electronic elements and sampling and things like that. Definitely played a big role in Fear Factory.
Right. And was that this is first time back in such a long time, or had you been working with him through the years?
Now we've been working through a lot of records through the years, almost every record except maybe a couple,
Hmm.
and this is our 10th album. So
Yeah, tenth. Congratulations on the 10th album. Congratulations on 30 years, bro. That's fucking
oof,
awesome,
it's a long time, but I'm still here. Last man standing, man, but I'm still here.
yes. Hell yeah, man. I high five you on that, man. It says a lot to be able to like come through 3 decades through all the bullshit. You guys survived the whole new metal phase. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
when most people thought that new metal was going to be the death of metal, and it's like no, no, man. Fear Factory came out, and then you just like you led the charge on a and a new vision of metal. You know, you brought like the industrial sound into it, and tell me about like your vision from like early in the '90s when you guys were establishing Fear Factory. Like, what were you aiming for?
Oh, I was aiming for an industrial metal band with unique elements thrown in there. Um, Definitely with the vocal style. I think one of the things that makes us still relevant today is that the formula that we created back in 1990 is still a formula that people use in metal bands today.
Yeah,
Whenever you hear, syncopated drums
right.
with guitars, or when you hear a
Clean
heavy
singing,
verse and a melodic chorus, those are still elements that are still used today a lot.
totally. You
Um,
guys really like set the trend for a lot of bands, and the list. I mean, we could go on and on about the list of bands that like really, they bit on your sound that you guys put out. You know what I mean?
yeah. Um, but that's part of being an originator. That's part of being creating something unique and new that people find it uh, people like. You know what I mean? People can be influenced by it, and that's part of being successful. That we were able to do that.
Yeah, and you guys have had great success, and again, congratulations on the 30 years. And you also recently you're doing 26 years of demanufacture, another monumental record. You're the sophomore record to Soul of a New Machine, and looking back at demanufacture, like how proud of you of that album?
100% very very proud of that record. But without talking about female, without with talking about demanufacture, you have to mention Soul. Fear is the Mind Killer, which is the EP that became before Demanufacture. That one really opened our eyes of how we can blend electronic elements with our heavy music, and that's how we were able to create Demanufacture. It was a very groundbreaking record. There was not really a lot of anything that I could think of at the time that was out similar to that. Of course, bands like Ministry and Nine Inch Nails and stuff like that paved the way for us.
Hmm.
Um, but I think we created something new. It was the vocal blend, the syncopated guitars with the kick drums, and the production, the tones on the record definitely um, set a new standard as well. Songwriting, from the songwriting process from Soul of a New Machine to Demanufacture was a different process because on Soul of a New Machine we wanted to put every song that we had, 17 songs, and actually we had like another five that we didn't put on there, but yeah, we put 17 songs on that first record. So we were like, okay, maybe that's too many songs. Let's just concentrate on the 10 best songs,
Yeah.
and that's what we did for Demanufacture. And I think it was very well focused, very well put together record. And I was happy and very proud that when we were mixing the records was when I really started to see everything come together, and it was like a cry of joy. You know what I mean?
I bet, I bet. And did any of the leftover songs? Did you take ideas? Did you cut it up and like use it for future songs?
Well, yeah, there was other when we did obsolete, there was like some B sides that we used that were left over from Soul of a New Machine.
Okay. Yeah. So you mentioned obsolete. Part of what Fear Factory was about, you guys always had like this running theme with a lot of the songs. There was a theme with obsolete, and now with aggression. There's a theme with the album, right? What's
Yes.
tell us about the theme on this one?
Well, as people know that Fear Factory have always uh, talked about the human with the relationship that it has with AI and how it progresses over the years, right? And how we progress with it as well. But on this particular album, it's kind of like this system, you can call it Skynet, the
Sure.
system organization that's basically wants to progress the future with automaton. Basically, like Boston Dynamics are developing these robots that can jump, dance, move. They got these robotic dogs that they use, these robotic police dogs that they use. So you take that and you times it by 100. You know what I mean? further into the future. But to me, not that far. Whereas the system is basically capturing humans and it's basically extracting their memories and their mind and their consciousness and implanting them into automatons. So these automatons think and feel like they're human, right? But along the way, along the process of along the storyline of the record, humans are actually telling these robots, "You are not human. You are just here to afflict death." You know, we have dialogue through the whole record, so you can kind of piece things together as you listen to the album, just from the dialogue. Um, and on the song "Aggression Continuum," there's a part where a human is talking to this automaton and is trying to tell the automaton, "You're not human," but the automaton does not get it because it really does think that, because
Mhm.
that's how it's programmed, right? And that's how it's progressing.
Right.
Um, so that's pretty much the theme to the whole record. Um, at the very end of the album, there's the speech from the movie Dune. It's called "Fear is the Mind Killer," and that's kind of like a little metaphor of me not fearing where I'm going to be going into the future with Fear Factory.
Mhm.
Um,
Oh, great.
because one of the things it says is like, when the fear is gone, only I remain. That's kind of like saying like I'm the only one that's left. I'm the last man standing,
That's my
and
style.
I'm moving forward. I'm my
Yeah,
best
that's
self.
great. And like Fear is the Mind Killer was like an early, you know, theme that Fear Factory had always had. So it's cool little bookend that you put that. So,
Yeah, yeah. So
and you know,
there's a connection there. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. And then you know what? As they say, art imitates life. You know, and especially with what went on in the past year. I mean, Fear is definitely a mind killer, and it really messed with a lot of people's heads, right? Like it's
Yeah. Well, we were also very socially aware of what was going around, because you got to remember at the time when we wrote the record, late 2016, early 2017, we were going through a big change in the world. You know what I mean? With our country being divided and just QAnon conspiracies and a presidential election, and obviously what we went through for the past, what we all went through in the past 4 years.
yeah,
We were definitely socially aware of what was going on, and that definitely played a big part in some of how we felt, because there's a lot of anger there. This record's a pretty pissed off record. That's why we called it Aggression Continuum, because there's a lot of aggression in those lyrics,
yeah,
and the conviction of his voice, my riffs, the production, there's a lot of aggression there, and
totally.
that's exactly why the record is called what it's called.
Hmm. And I think that aggression is missing a lot pretty often with some new bands, new music that have been around for a while. They tend to lose that angst, and it's good that you're able to find it, especially like you said, the last handful
I
of years.
never lost it. I never lost it.
Never lost it. Yeah, yeah, you kept on that. There was a fuel that was always adding to your fire. So that's great. That's really great. And I always considered, uh, especially when I was young, when I first heard Fear Factory, like it's one of the bands that I consider like conscious metal. You know what I mean? And a lot of people seem to have a problem with like, oh, I don't want a message in my metal. It's just stick to writing songs. It's like stick to writing riffs, and it's like, but Fear Factory has always had that. Oh, I hate to use the word awake, but the conscious mentality in your lyrics and even through the music itself, it translates. What was it that made you aware?
Just me being a kid, and just when I first started, into this stuff, and just being a fan of futuristic movies. You know what I mean? And then as you get older, you start discovering like, hey, some of this stuff is not too far off, and just being aware of just your surroundings. Um, from Soul Winning Machine to Demanufacture, in LA, from like 92 to like about 95, or 94, we had we had riots, the Rodney King riots, you know, race wars that were going on,
Yep.
blacks, whites, Asians, you know what I mean, Hispanics, just a lot of things going on that way. I mean, how could you not see it if you're living in Los Angeles. You know what I mean? During the riots, the world saw it. So we had the riots. Then we had some massive fires, right? And the fires caused mudslides, right? And then mudslides caught turned into the '94 earthquake,
Hmm.
right? And we just saw Los Angeles falling apart. And
But
that's how we came up with the title demanufacture, because like, what's the opposite of buildup? Is it to break it down? And
yeah.
that's just kind of like what we saw during that record. Actually from Soul Winning Machine to demanufacture. So, and just being aware of your surroundings, man.
Yeah, like it writes itself, you know. I mean, like it provides a lot of motivation and just lyrical content, you know, and just that immersion that that you really need. So
Yeah, definitely a lot of lyrical content for sure, and living through it definitely provokes a lot of feelings. I mean, Fear Factory, what it means is anything that manufactures fear, and in our life, and in our life, and actually being in Fear Factory, we try to help people overcome those fears. You know what I
hmm
mean? And so that's just in life as well.
yeah, our art, I think, especially music in the past year, I think was a really a savior for a lot of people. You know what I mean? Like. You're stuck at home, and what else are you gonna do besides watch movies all day, and then, or throw on your favorite record, or even listen to some new music. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I noticed that streaming, like our music, people on Spotify. I noticed that our plays went up,
Really?
during the COVID, because people were home listening to music, which was really cool, and people would listen to, catch up on their favorite show, kick back and watch a shit ton of movies, obviously, right? Um, but that's for us, we like I said earlier, we're totally aware of what's around us, and for us, music is all about experimentation, discovery, challenges, and it
Mhm.
should be dangerous at times and radical. You know what I mean? I felt that Fear Factory was radical back in the day, and we were adding clean vocals to a heavy record like Soul in a Machine, which is like grind meets death, industrial, and then this gothy type of lyrics. In some ways, that was radical. We were changing the way people uh, hear and and create music. You know what I mean? So, but you can't fear to try those new things, because those new things could create something new,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Fear is
So,
definitely crippling, and you make a good point, man. Like, just don't be afraid to just take that plunge, and the now.
and fear actually could keep you from discovering something new. You know what I mean?
Totally true. True. Again, we're here talking with Dino Cazares. A pleasure. You're like my first Zoom interview face to face, or semi face to face. You know what I mean? And I'm excited for the new album coming out this Friday, June 18th, Aggression Continuum. Um, Tell us more about now the artwork that has some sort of Easter eggs, right, in it.
Yes.
It's incorporated FF for Fear Factory on your covers. So, like,
Yeah.
tell us about the artwork for this one?
Well, pretty much it's an automaton in the shape of an FF, but it also has the form of an X, and it's a Roman numeral 10, because this is our 10th studio record. Um, so that is the current. That's now. Then on the bottom right FF, there's a serial number, and it says 103190, and that is the birth of Fear Factory, the birth of this machine. Um, so that represents the 30-year anniversary of Fear Factory. And then the aggression continuum, it just means that we're going to be continuing with this style, and continuing with the story and concept, and what Fear Factory is about. So that represents the future.
Awesome, awesome. And then now, according to some publications, you have your compadre from Asesino. You have Tony Campos on bass with you joining the ranks.
Well, Tony never really left. He's been touring with the band for the past, I don't know, 6 years or so, I think. Um, but obviously he has his band Static X, so that means that we're not going to be able to get to use him all the time, because we're going to have conflicting tours, obviously,
Sure.
right? But we'll try to tour together whenever we can, so that way he can do double duty.
Mhm.
But when he is, off doing something else with Static X, and I'm moving on with Fear Factory, we'll just get a replacement. And I've already spoken to someone who's played with us before, a guy named Matt DeVries, who is from a band called Chimera. So hopefully there won't be any conflicting schedules with him, and he'll be able to come in and fill in for Tony while he's gone.
Right on, right on. And we want to thank Burton Bell for his vocal contribution to the new album. Um, you don't have to let any secrets out, but I mean, have you had any discussion as far as like what vocalists you're looking at to take on tour with you?
Yeah, of course, many discussions. We we had a lot of people audition, and we're still having more people audition, by the way. So I haven't made my final decision yet at all whatsoever.
Right.
But because of COVID, a lot of people couldn't come in because of the travel restrictions.
Mhm.
So now that all this is opening up and we're going to be able to audition more people, and, I want to take my time and pick the right person.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I mean, like, I feel there's no rush. Like, everything's reopening again. It's June 15th here in California. So,
There's going to be so many bands coming up and touring,
yeah,
announcing tours. It's going to be like an overload
yeah,
of all these bands going out at the same time.
yeah. And you've already had to wait a year, and it's like, you might have to wait like another, I don't know, year or 6 months because, like you said, the overload and people's wallets are going to be empty or the credit card accounts are going to be overdrawn because of all these.
Exactly. Exactly. It's going to be a lot of big tours being announced coming up soon. So
Just real quick, I want to show you this old school merch I got. This was like,
yeah, lift it up a little bit. There you go. Yeah, I believe I want to say that was made during the Obsolete tour.
I had gotten it.
Yeah, it's our work shirt. It's called the work shirt.
Yeah, I had gotten it. I think it was. I was at your whiskey show years ago for your birthday party, and I think that's where I gotten it.
Hmm.
Yeah, or maybe I gotten it somewhere else. I don't know, but I remember that whiskey show though. I don't know if you
Hmm.
remember that or how much of you remember it, but
Well, I've had many birthday shows at the whiskey, but I don't remember that one in particular. But it must have been a long time ago then.
yeah, it was a while back because I've been a long time fan of yours and Aggression Continuum coming out this Friday. Hopefully, one of these days we'll catch up at the Rainbow and have a El Mariaco burger, which everybody should
Oh,
try.
you saw that?
I went and like unfortunately like they didn't know what I was talking about. I was like, oh, the chef that makes it isn't here. I was like, oh man. So I've been wanting to go back for that because it looks. I love Monster Burgers, man.
Yeah, that was insane. Yep.
Yeah, and like I live like down the street from Grill Mall, which they'll have all those metal burgers too. We got to get a Fear
Oh,
Factory burger, bro.
yeah, that'd be nice. I wish,
But
talk to him if you're there all the time. Talk to him.
and
Tell him.
the release of the demanufactured vinyl. Shout out to Scummy. He had put it on his live feed. He showed us all
Yep.
how beautiful it is.
Yep.
Streams are important, but it's more important that you buy the merch, you buy the record. Aggression Continuum, Nuclear Blast, Dino Cazares. I want to thank you, brother. Hopefully we see you soon. And any last words for the fans out there?
Yes, I want to say thank you for all the support you've given us for the past 30 years. And if there's anything you want from the band, go to fearfactory.com. There you can find everything. Thank you for your time, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, brother. Cheers.
Later.